So I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists today. They'll go ahead and just give a brief description about, where they're from and their major, as well as any campus life activities that they're involved in. Before we do that, I sort of want to go over an overview of sort of what our panel is going to be like and sort of talk about how our question and answering system will work here. So this panel deals with campus life activities. Essentially, we're going to talk about clubs, residential colleges on campus, sort of the health of students on campus, internships, and sort of all of these broad topics as well. And you can ask more specific questions through our question and answering box. So essentially the way that box works is you'll have an opportunity to write either anonymously, or if you want to include your name, you can go ahead and do that as well, a question in our question and answering box. And we'll either, choose it to be answered live, or if it's a question that we can, answer via text, we'll go ahead and do that as well. And definitely the majority of this panel will be focused on answering any questions that you will have. We do have 3 admission officers on duty today who will help in that question and answering process. But our 4 panelists today will be the main ones to help us answer those questions. So I'll go ahead and start by having all of our panelists to introduce themselves. If they can go ahead and get that started.
I'm sorry, I think the camera was still off.
Okay, one moment, folks. We're experiencing a technical difficulty with the camera. Jonathan and Angela, if you can go ahead and begin, that'd be great.
Sure, Angela. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Liz and Josh have joined us.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela. I am a senior, and I just finished my thesis. Yay. So I major in international relations, and I am pursuing a minor in classics, specifically Latin culture and literature. On campus, I'm involved with Business Today, so a business organization that has 2 sectors, publication and conferences. And I'm involved with both. And I was a staff writer for the Daily Princetonian for 2 years. I'm from Beijing, China. It's my hometown. And my favorite study spot on campus is Murray Dodge, which is a cafe that gives out free cookie and tea every day. Highly recommend.
I'm Jonathan. I'm a sophomore from Dallas. I came in as a mechanical and aerospace engineering student, but now I'm studying politics, focusing on political theory. Yeah, on campus, I'm involved with the Princeton Christian Fellowship and also Rockefeller Residential College, where I'll be helping out as a residential college advisor next year, sort of like an RA at other schools. And I think some things that I really enjoy on campus are going to the art museum and practicing trumpet and piano in the new music center.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a junior studying sociology and computer programming. From Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Some events that I've done on campus. I'm currently work with SIFP, the Scholars Institute Fellowship Program, which is an organization under the administration that handles any sort of like a space for first-generation low-income students on campus. I also work as an LGBTQIA peer educator. So if you decide to enroll, which you should, I'll be at some of your panels in the freshman year, sort of to talk about more LGBTQI life on campus and the other resources that we have available.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz, and I'm currently a senior here at Princeton. I study in the Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs with a minor in entrepreneurship. Outside of academics, I'm also a campus tour guide, and I perform in the Princeton University Orchestra, as well as the Princeton Triangle Club. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, and last year I studied abroad in Milan, Italy, so definitely feel free to ask me any questions about that.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you who are just tuning in, I sort of want to explain the question and answering box again. So that's your opportunity to ask us questions either anonymously, or if you want to include your name, that's also fine as well. And there's 2 ways that we'll approach these questions. We'll either have them answered live, given the admission officers on staff who will help to work with that process, or they'll also answer those questions via text. So we also had some questions that were submitted to us beforehand by all of our attendees here. And one of the most common questions that we got from our attendees, so I just want to get the ball rolling, is a question about work-life balance at Princeton University. So, how do you, juggle all these extracurricular activities and, clubs on campus, maybe internships? How are you able to manage all of that while, still having 8 hours of sleep and, still being able to attend your classes? And this is a question open for all of our panelists.
Well, I could start. So currently I'm enrolled in 5 classes, and it's a variety of arts classes, including sociology and statistical programming. So there's a wide variety of different assignments and different requirements that are supposed to be done outside of the classroom. One of the things that will be expected of you is that not all the assignments will be finished within the class, but a lot of time is dedicated outside, including readings or possibly problem sets. And so one of the things to really focus on is prioritizing which assignments I want to do. So I might need to spend a lot more time on my problem set, and I might decide to instead skim my readings instead of go into a deep analysis of them each evening. And you'll find that, at least for me, I've been able to have enough time to be able to work, eat, at least get in 7 hours of sleep, and also still be able to participate in a couple of extracurriculars. It really depends on prioritization of whatever you want to get out of the university.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of what Josh said, I think time management is really important. And I think this is a skill that a lot of people have to learn or adjust as they first come to campus. However, that being said, I think that the workload, while difficult and challenging, is very manageable. I can't say this anymore because I just finished my thesis, but up until this year, there's never been a night where I didn't get enough sleep. I've never pulled an all-nighter or anything like that. So if you are diligent about time management and really keeping track of your assignments, it's very possible to have a great balance, kind of work-life balance in your life. I also just want to mention that the university has a lot of great resources to help you with your academics if you're struggling or you're kind of need some help keeping up with your work. I think a great example of this is the McGraw Center for Teaching and Learning, which is our tutoring facility here on campus. So they offer one-on-one tutoring as well as different study halls. So the study halls are essentially when you can go and take a problem set or homework and get help from tutors as well as other classmates working on the same assignment. So even while academics here can be challenging, it's very easy to get help on them, and there's tons of resources available for students.
I'll just add one more thing for McGraw, the Learning Center Liz just mentioned. So they also have people who literally help you with time management. They will give you a planner and they'll sit down with you and go over your priorities and teach you how to do that. So McGraw is very, very helpful for me personally, and I'm sure if you need help, you can go there.
Awesome. So just to ask a follow-up question to that, so students are already, concerned about being able to balance the different activities on campus, but can you just sort of briefly just introduce some of the different types of extracurriculars that might be available to our students? What are some of the programs that they might have an opportunity to take here at Princeton? What is it exactly that they will be balancing?
Sure, I can take that. So obviously you're coming here to study something for 4 years, and at the end you'll write your thesis about that topic, that field. And so the first thing that comes to people's mind would probably be academics. Like Josh mentioned, most people take 4 or 5 classes a semester, and so you'll have to think about that and how to prioritize those responsibilities. But also, so extracurriculars, whether that's a performing arts group or a cultural group, anything like that. It could be an athletic commitment as well. So something that you're pretty vested in outside of classes. For me, that would be like the Princeton Christian Fellowship, and also being part of the University Symphonia, where I play trumpet. So just learning to figuring out what things are most important to you and how you want to work on those, whether that's going to daily practices for the Frisbee team or just having time to spend with friends. That's another big one. And so just the things that are important to your life, whether it's what you're studying, what you really love, or the people who are really important to you.
Awesome. We've also received a question submitted by an attendee during registration about internships on campus as well. Can one of you briefly talk about sort of how internships work? Are there internships that are offered off campus, maybe during the summer, or are there also internships offered on campus as well? If anyone can talk about that.
I could take this one. So my previous 2 summers, I have worked on campus as an oral history interviewer for the LGBT Center, and also as a residential college advisor for the FSI Freshman Scholarship Institute program, which also admits first-generation low-income incoming freshmen. And so those were just 2 out of a variety of opportunities that existed on campus. And this summer I'll be pursuing an international internship that was provided through Princeton in making the connection with IIP, the International Internship Program, and that will be going to Vietnam. It ends up, because it's going to be international, it ends up taking into account my current financial aid status and has helped recuperate some of the costs in getting there and also the housing.
To springboard off of what Josh said, Princeton offers a lot of different internship opportunities over the summer for different students, kind of based on their interests. So like Josh mentioned, the Princeton International Internship Program is really great. I've had friends go abroad to hundreds of different countries with them. For example, I had a friend work on microfinance in Uganda one summer. I also had another friend work on electoral democracy in Sweden. And those were all through the Princeton International Internship Program. In addition, another one of the largest kind of internship programs through Princeton over the summer is called the Princeton Internships in Civic Service Program, or PICS. So this is where Princeton places students with a community service, government or nonprofit organization for the summer. And I actually just completed an internship with them last summer. So they're another great organization that sets Princeton students up with partner organizations. There's also lots of different opportunities even here on campus over the summer. So for example, students often stay and do research with professors or work, for example, in the Entrepreneurship Center over the summer. Different things like that are all structured through Princeton. And then lastly, if students were to pursue an internship opportunity off campus, there's several different Princeton resources to kind of fund those experiences. So for example, there's something called the Dean's Fund every year that gives scholarship awards for students to do internships over the summer. And also oftentimes individual departments will sponsor students to do internship or research work over the summer. So lots and lots of different opportunities here.
Okay, great. So I want to switch gears and talk about the residential colleges on campus. That's we got a good number of questions about that actually. So some students kind of want to know what their roommate situation would be like, you know, what the housing application process is like, how maybe your experiences as first-year students were with your roommates. I definitely want to recommend this question to Jonathan, who will be an RCA. If you can go ahead and talk about just the residential college experience.
Okay, sure. So coming into Princeton, you may know a few people already here, but like for me, I didn't know anyone. And so one thing the university works really hard on is making sure you have a community of people from all over the country interested in all different things to get to know and just to start building that community at Princeton. So they'll place you in a residential college and they're also part of an advisee group. We call it Z group for short, but basically that's maybe 15 to 20 other freshman students and from all different backgrounds again. And some of them might be your roommates. For me, and so your roommates will be, you won't be able to pick them, but you can fill out a form and so the university will match you up with people that they think will work well with your living habits. And so I really enjoyed my roommates freshman year, and I'm still rooming with one of them. He's one of my best friends on campus, even though our interests are so different. And so I think it's a really good way to meet people from different backgrounds who are interested in different things. And that can push you either to explore things that you wouldn't have otherwise, or at least just meet a friend that you wouldn't have. And so that's why I want to help out with that process and be an RCA, a residential college advisor next year. So I think it's very rewarding, whether you find your best friends in your advisee group or it's just a way for you to get started in your first year at Princeton.
So I think one thing to clarify also is, can you also just speak what exactly is a residential college and what is an RCA exactly?
Okay, so Princeton has 6 residential colleges. They're not based on majors or activities or anything like that. They're just geographically split up around campus. And so each residential college has a dining hall and lots of dormitories associated with it. And that's kind of your starting identity as a Princetonian. You'll live there for your first 2 years and be able to eat in all the dining halls. But that's a good starting point because the people who are close to you, who are nearby, are the people you're going to be able to hang out with more and to see more. So that's, I think, in short, what residential college is. And then the advisor is an upperclassman who's been through 2 years at Princeton, is interested in providing guidance and just helping students make the adjustment. So that a lot of that would be living adjustments, just living away from home on their own. But also there are advisors for academics, thinking about majors or how to transition to the Princeton academics. Yeah. So all sorts of resources for transitioning.
Great. And so I just have one more question for the residential college experience. So the question was, had to do with the difference between living in a quad and living in a double. If one of you can talk about sort of the differences in the types of dorms that we offer on campus, and if that in any way shapes the students' experience here at Princeton, especially that first year of college.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different room types here, everything from singles all the way up to 12-person suites. I will say the type of room you might be placed into will largely depend on your residential college. I think it's important to note that your residential college placement is totally random. It's not something you have to choose or apply to or anything like that. However, each residential college offers different dorms in its buildings. So for example, I was a member of Butler College, which is almost exclusively made up of singles in 4-person quads. 4-person rooms or quads. So my freshman year, I lived in a single, and my sophomore year, I lived in a 4-person quad. But other residential colleges have different kind of room setups and different offerings. Like I said, everything from singles all the way up to one 12-person suite. So a lot of different opportunities. I personally really enjoyed living with roommates. However, that being said, if you did want to live in a single or a smaller room, it definitely won't inhibit you socially at all. Because the Z groups are such a great sense of community, and also because there's so many things going on in the residential college throughout the week. My res college offered everything from weekly study breaks where they brought in food off campus, maybe Chipotle or Dippin' Dots, things like that. Everything from that to trips to Broadway shows, trips to things off campus. So even if you do live in a single, I definitely would not feel like that would limit you socially whatsoever. But roommates can also be a great way to kind of have a little home away from home.
Just to add on to that you don't have a choice about your room type your freshman year, but you will have a choice your sophomore year, and you can choose your roommates. So if you really didn't enjoy your living situation your freshman year, there are a lot of room for improvement or for changes once you're a sophomore.
Yeah, definitely. So we got this question coming in our QA box. I want to ask this question to everyone. Anyone can feel free to answer that. But what would you say the sort of vibe on campus is? Like, are we a very community-focused campus? You know, what is it like to be here at Princeton on our campus?
I can start. There's this concept kind of called the orange bubble, which I think is very much a great descriptor of Princeton. 98% of our students live on campus for all 4 years. So by and large, almost everyone is right here in Princeton. And I think there really is a strong sense of Princeton community. You'll definitely see people walking around all day that you know. And I think that orange bubble is a really great way to kind of describe that very inclusive Princeton community here.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so just a follow-up question on that. So the orange bubble, I think this is more of a question just because I'm an alum, so I'm kind of familiar with that. Are there times where, students do venture out of the orange bubble? How insular is the orange bubble, if at all?
I can take it. So I think we briefly talked about it before, but there are a lot of opportunities to get off campus on the weekends, and a lot of them are actually sponsored by Princeton. For example, when I was a freshman and sophomore in my residential college, Maddie would organize trips to Broadway, I want to say 3 or 4 times a semester. Not just Maddie, other residential colleges have these trips as well. And I've gone with Princeton to watch a basketball game in New York, and I've taken trips to Philly to visit the art museum. So if you want to get off campus every weekend even, you can. And I am an international student, and Princeton is not too far away from New York. We can get there by a train that arrives directly onto campus. So, going home is also very easy for me and for other international students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So I got another question that I actually really liked. So there's no one answer to this, but the question is, what are some hidden gems on campus? What are some great spots to go to? What are some great learning spaces or facilities?
Go to the art museum. It's funny because that's a place where visitors on campus always want to go, but students don't go as much. I think, it's a great opportunity to see all these pieces of art up close. And actually, they'll be constructing a new art museum just because they want to display more of the university's collection. So definitely go if you're coming.
Also Firestone, because they just renovated it and there's so much room to study. You will find your favorite little cubicle or your spot in Firestone, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Firestone is beautiful. During my time here, it was under renovation, so there was a lot of construction, but they finally finished the renovation. It's definitely a great place on campus. Also, this is a question for students who are worried about moving and whatnot, especially international students or students who just live very far from Princeton. Are there any storage facilities on campus for students who are moving from far away, or if they want to keep stuff over the summer? Is that something that we offer here?
Yes. I think Whitman has a basement that is designed just for international storage, and you just sign up. I think they allow maybe 3 or 4 boxes to be stored there, and you will make friends who are from New Jersey, like I do, and their families would normally take as many boxes for you as possible to their houses. So I've also done that in the past, and I have a lot of stuff, and I figured it out for the past 4 years, so you will be fine.
Yeah, awesome. They also have, I think, a moving company as well on campus as well. If you want to, pay for storage, that's definitely an option for students as well. So for the attendees that are just coming in as well, I sort of want to remind everyone that you can ask questions in our Q&A box, and we'll be able to answer them live or answer them via text. Those are the options for answering all of our questions. So I want to follow up with another question. Can you describe the typical weekend at Princeton? What is it that Princeton students like to do during the weekend? And this question is really for anyone.
I guess it varies. So I've just been finishing up my junior project, so a lot of it has been spent in Firestone working. But when I don't have a big deadline, it would probably mostly be spending time with friends. A lot of times I try my best to go to different speakers or panels that are happening on campus. It's kind of crazy the number of politicians, activists, writers, painters, all over the place that are coming on campus over the weekends to be able to speak to students, even during the weekdays. And so that's usually one of the ways I try to pass my time, is attending those speakers.
Yeah, I think also now that I'm PTL, or post-thesis life, as we call it, I've really been trying to take advantage of everything going on over the weekend. And like Josh said, there's always so much going on here. This past week, I went to go see a kind of talk with members of the SNL cast who came, and that was really awesome. Last weekend, I also went to a dance show, so there's always like dance shows, a cappella shows, different things happening with that. Also different study breaks and activities through the Res College. So my Res College offers things like tie-dyeing and pumpkin carving and laser tag on the weekends. That's really fun. And then there's a lot of other kind of random hidden gems as far as things to do. So for example, this past weekend, I actually went to a ceramic studio in Wilson Residential College. It's just like a ceramic studio that's there, and we were able to make little pots with some of my friends. So there's always a lot of things going on and lots of different options to do to have fun.
Great. Yeah, so we're starting to get in some questions about eating clubs on campus. Before we get to that, I sort of want to talk about, dining in general, and then we can sort of explain what eating clubs are and sort of how that affects the social life. But so just in terms of dining in general, is the food on campus good? What are the options that students have?
I think the food's pretty good. One of my roommates last year was vegan, and he was saying how it's actually maybe easier for him to eat vegan here on campus than it is at home, just because of the wide variety of types of food and types of diets that the dining halls accommodate for. I'll be eating in the dining halls all 4 years as a residential college advisor, so it's good enough for me. And I think if you get tired of the dining hall at your residential college, you could always go to another one. And with your friends and eating clubs, you can have meals with them too. There's a program to do that. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and I feel like people have this assumption about dining halls as just being not accommodating, but that is not the case at Princeton, because a lot of the times they will cater to your needs. And I was in Maddie for 2 years, and they have omelet bars, and you can just tell them what you want to put on the omelets. And Wilson, another dining hall, has a stir-fry bar, and you just put whatever you want in the stir-fry and they make it for you. And Whitman, another dining hall or Res College, has a ramen bar, which is my personal favorite. So there are a lot of options for customization. And you can also, if you have specific dietary restrictions, you can talk to people in charge, and they will accommodate you. And they'll even bag your lunches if you're busy running to a class. I've done it so many times in the past when I was busy writing a paper and didn't have time for lunch, so they just made me my sandwiches.
Just on a personal note, I'm a vegetarian and I'm allergic to nuts, so I have a lot of kind of food restrictions, but I've always been able to have a full plate here. They're very, very accommodating, as others have said.
And I know all of you sort of represent different facets of eating on campus. I know some of you are independent students. Josh, I know you're in a co-op, and Liz, you've had some experiences in eating club. I'm wondering if all of you can share those specific experiences on campus. Josh, why don't you go ahead and start? You have experiences in a co-op. Can you tell us what a co-op is and sort of what that experience is?
Yeah, sure. So co-op, I'm not sure exactly how many, I think about 6 co-ops on campus. Spread around. They're each on university property, but they're run by the students that are within the co-ops. I'm currently in 2D, the largest co-op out of all of them, about 50, 60 members. And so what we're expected to do is once a week, we'll do a cook shift and a clean shift. And then we'll have dinner served there on top of that brunch for the weekends. And that co-op, what it's known for is being vegetarian and vegan. I personally am neither, but it has to probably be some of the best food I've ever had in my life. And it's also very affordable. It came out to about $650 a semester. In general, it provides a space not just for eating, but also as a social place for meeting with other students, sort of sharing this experience of like eating. You don't need to have cooking experience. I'm known for causing fires, not anymore. I've definitely learned out of that. And I'd have to say it's definitely a good option going into your junior or senior year.
Yeah. So I was previously in an eating club. As I did study abroad last year, it made more sense logistically for my life to leave my eating club. So now I'm on a dining hall meal plan. Both options are really great. I think the eating clubs offer an awesome kind of social source of community for students. But the campus dining plans, as well as co-ops, other things like that, are great options as well. So you really can't go wrong. You're going to get great food and good company regardless.
Yeah. Angela, yeah.
So I am an independent student, meaning that I cook for myself. Essentially how that works is that I would go grocery shopping every Sunday or Saturday sometimes, mostly Sundays, and Princeton actually has a shuttle bus that takes you to the grocery store, and you can just buy whatever you need and they take you back for free. I would do meal prep on Sundays. Sunday is my cooking day. So then it's actually not super time consuming if you have meal prep. And then during the week, I would just either eat my meal prep food or eat in the dining hall, because Princeton gives you 2 swipes as an upper foreman to eat in the dining hall. And a lot of the times I would just have my residential college advisor friends swipe me in because they have guest swipes, or my friends who are in eating clubs to do also a guest swipe. So I think it's a cheaper option than being in an eating club, and I eat what I like. I eat very healthily every week because I cook my own food. So it's been good so far.
Yeah, okay, so I definitely want to make sure that this question gets answered too. So how do the eating clubs affect the social life on campus? I know you all talked about that, but so more directly, the social life on campus, how is that affected by eating clubs? I know that Angela, for example, you still have friends that invite you to eating clubs. That's definitely something that is something that you could talk a little bit about. Or, Liz, you were in an eating club as well. If you can sort of talk about the social aspects as well, that would be definitely something we can share with all of our attendees.
Yeah, I can start. So eating clubs, I think, offer kind of a unique source of community for students. It's important to note you don't live there. It's kind of like comparable to a restaurant. So you go there and eat 19 meals a week. That being said, even though they are primarily a place for eating, as their name would suggest, they also do offer a lot of different social events throughout the week. So it can be a good way to meet people who you might not have known otherwise, kind of like another res college or something like that, to get people from different backgrounds together. They also offer different kind of study breaks and activities for students. So for example, right now, Assassins is going on in a lot of eating clubs, different kind of fun things like that to bring students together. They also all offer libraries and intramural sports. So that can be a great way to participate in community building activities as well. That being said, it's not as if eating clubs are this thing as if you're not in one, you'll have no social life. There's lots of ways for students to connect in and outside of eating clubs. And I think almost every person probably has a friend in each eating club and co-ops in residential colleges. So it's definitely not an end-all be-all of your social life. I think they can be a valuable part of your social life, but for most students, they're not the entire social life.
Yeah, great. So we got this question in. This might be the last question for the dining options on campus. Do these different dining options cost different amounts? And if so, like what's financial aid like with these different costs?
Yeah, I could take this one. So I know that financial aid varies depending on wherever your income is that you're coming from. But for me, I'm on full aid. And so that means getting an unlimited dining plan my first 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year. And then going into junior, senior year, if I wish to join into an eating club, either bigger or to sign in, the financial aid will be boosted a bit to help cover the additional costs, not fully, but there is some assistance to raise it. Doesn't mean that I would have gone without a meal plan. I could still opt in for the unlimited dining plan, or I could instead get that amount released to me as a credit for going in as an independent student or going into a co-op. So I took some of that funds and used it to go to the co-op instead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so we have one really fun question here. So what are some things you shouldn't forget to bring to campus as a freshman?
Okay, one thing I really wish I would have brought is extra socks and underwear. I think I kind of underestimated how long I was going to go between laundry, so I wish I had the extra socks and stuff for the winter. Also, extra hangers would have been great. I constantly, my freshman year, found myself having to Amazon Prime more hangers to my room so I could get all my clothes up. And I think another thing that was really helpful was a mattress topper for my bed, because this made my bed a bit more comfortable, and I was really glad I brought that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we have a couple more questions here. Let's see. So in terms of I kind of want to go back to sort of the work-life balance here. We do have some questions about sort of what are the different resources that we have on campus. I know we talked about the McGraw Center. Are there other resources available for students as well if they're, experiencing any difficulty with their classes or just, the social life at Princeton? Can you talk more about those experiences, about those resources?
I can start. So I struggled quite a bit as a freshman to balance my work and study because I was trying to participate in all sorts of organizations and clubs, and at the same time trying to go to all of my 4 classes at the time. And the person who really helped me was an academic peer advisor and peer academic advisor, a PAA. And so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think each residential college advisor is paired with a peer academic advisor. So then they will be the people who will literally go to your dorm room and sit down with you and help you. And my PA was very, very helpful in following up even month after my first meeting with her. And I eventually got back on track. And then I learned to use Google Calendar, which I never used before because I came from China. But Google Calendar was something I found extremely helpful in planning my life, especially planning ahead, like month ahead if you have a paper due or a PSET or a giant presentation, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So in terms of these resources, though, are there resources that are useful not just at Princeton, but let's say after you graduate, from Princeton? Do these resources sort of follow you, or what resources do we have for students once they actually leave Princeton? I know that Liz, you just finished your senior thesis. Is that correct? Yeah, okay, so you're definitely on that that time of the year where you're thinking about what's going to happen to you after graduation. If you can talk about some of the resources that we have for our graduates.
Yeah. So I think one of the best resources that we offer here is our Career Services Center. They are so awesome. A few weeks ago, I was really stressing about what I was going to do after leaving Princeton, and the Career Services was there for me. They're awesome. They have a team of advisors who can help you not only do things like apply to graduate school or get a job later on, but also do things like look for an internship, prepare for medical school, different things like that. So they're really awesome. Their office is located above the university store at 100 University Place. And you can meet one-on-one with an advisor. I met with my career advisor probably 4 times in the last month. She's probably sick of me. But she was super helpful in going over different options, preparing applications, and even doing things like scholarship hunts and doing things like that. I think another really great resource to talk about is our alumni network. The Princeton alumni are amazing. They're so incredible. They're so willing to help you anytime after you leave Princeton, or even at Princeton. If you ever have a question, you can just shoot an alumni an email, and odds are they'll respond to you, give you career advice, really help you, and kind of tell you about their experience at and after Princeton. So they are so great. Even just in my time here, I actually got an internship last summer because of kind of networking and talking to an alumni who worked in a related field. So they're super awesome as well, and I think they're a great resource for students after graduating.
Yeah, so this summer, actually, I found my internship through the career services. They have an activity called Princetonship. Basically, you go for a few days to visit an alum at a different office or company. And so I was visiting the Office of Advancement here at the university. And through that visit, I heard about this internship they have for the summer, and I applied for that. And that's what I'll be doing this summer. And also, just to talk a little bit more about the alumni network, I was thinking a little bit more about nonprofits and music. And so I just looked up through the alumni network this alumna who works at the Lincoln Center in New York. And I emailed her. She didn't know who I was, but we just scheduled like a time to call, and she was able to tell me all about her experiences working with a nonprofit. So it's really up to you, and you can kind of use as many resources as you want because it's all there.
Yeah, it sounds like Princeton's alumni network is very, very close-knit, and I think that this is a sort of good segue into this question we just got asked, which is, what are some campus traditions on campus? Yeah, if you can, go ahead and share maybe a couple of examples, that would definitely be great.
So at the beginning of the year and at the end, there's a parade that happens entering the gate. The freshman year, you enter with your pre-raid where you have the banner coming in and all the incoming freshmen. And then at the end, you'll have, as seniors, you walk out of the gate because it's tradition not to walk through the gate. I forget which president didn't graduate.
JFK.
Yeah, he ended up going to Harvard, bad idea. But anyway, he didn't graduate because supposedly he had walked through the gate before he graduated. And so you have that in and out movement that happens at the beginning and at the end of your time here. Also, to sort of reiterate the alumni, once you're a Princetonian, you always are. And so there's a reunion that happens just before the parade, just before graduation, where alumni from all classes come back and participate in that parade and sort of regather. Or usually they're major 5 reunions, but there are people that will come in all the time. And that is the biggest reunion I think that happens anywhere, any college, right?
Yeah, the parade, as it's called, is also my favorite kind of Princeton tradition. This is where all the Princeton alums proceed back through the gate in a procession. Last year, I believe the oldest alumni coming back graduated in the class of 1937. So I think this is a really great example of that kind of Princeton pride that lasts through the ages. Another one of my favorite traditions is, if any given year we beat both Harvard and Yale at football, we throw a huge bonfire on Cannon Green in the middle of campus. It is so much fun. This is the first year that this happened since 2012, I believe. So it was so much fun. There were thousands of people here, a huge fire, and that was a really enjoyable event.
It was definitely a controlled fire, and it was
Nothing was burning.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to speak a little bit about that parade. I think he was from the class of, I think it was definitely in the 30s, and he was at the front of the parade, and he had this cane just leading the entire procession of tens of thousands of alums who gathered for reunions. So we definitely have a lot of campus traditions here at Princeton. Okay, so I wanted to ask this other question. I know we talked a little bit about sort of going outside the orange bubble. So we had this follow-up question from one student wondering, how realistic is it to go, once a week outside of the New Jersey area, or what's the sort of number of times that people would take to go off campus? Like how realistic would that be?
So it really depends, again, on how your schedule is built and what you decide to focus on. Again, going to New York can happen many times through the university. The residential college offers a lot of operas and Broadway shows at discounted prices. I know for me, taking the train can sometimes be expensive. So if you look on like Megabus, or if you look for any bus companies online, sometimes you can find dollar bus tickets at a specific time to go into and out of New York City. And so that is something that you can sort of pre-plan ahead, say I want to go at this time, and that can be a very affordable way to get into the city.
I think it also just depends on you. You'll find students here that go off campus every single weekend. You'll find students here that never go off campus if they don't have to. So it just kind of depends on you and your time management and what you're interested in doing. So you can definitely pursue any amount of off-campus travel that you'd like.
Yeah, I think it also depends on not only you, but also your friends, because if they're in a cappella groups or dance groups, you would want to stay on campus that weekend to see their shows. That's when they shine. So a lot of things on campus will make you want to stay on campus over the weekend. But if you don't have, like, if you really want to go see an art show in New York or Philly, you totally can do it every weekend. If like Josh said, you have the money and means to do so.
Yeah, great. So I have another question about on-campus jobs. So I know that some students are wondering, if they want to pursue work study or if they just want to find a job in general here on campus, like how hard would that be? I know that Jonathan is one of our bloggers on the Princeton admissions team. So, if you can talk about sort of your experiences with having a job on campus and finding a job.
Yeah, I think, me and my roommate, we both have campus jobs. And there's just so many different jobs you could be involved in. Some of them, if you're interested in like research or lab work, you can help. And I know Josh, you said you did some work transcribing over the summers. And I know I have a friend who does that for the sociology department. You can work in labs, or there's the psychology department has something called the baby lab. And they have like infants and very young children go there for some lab work. So yeah, you could do that, or working in dining halls, working at libraries. There's all sorts of things based on your interests. And maybe if you just want different experiences. So blogging, I wanted to write more about my time at Princeton and to share that. So that's what I chose. But I think the hours are very flexible. You can also tutor other students. That's an option. The hours and the job type and work are all very flexible.
And there was a follow-up question to that we just got. So how do you apply to jobs on campus? Like, what is that process like?
Yeah, there's this awesome job search engine called the Student Employment Site. And then you can look at it this summer before coming to Princeton or at any time when you're a student here. And it lists different jobs in different departments. It's a big website. They list probably hundreds of different jobs to apply to. And if you see anything that piques your interest, you can just apply online and hopefully someone will email you a follow-up soon.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I can add on that a little bit. I'm a work study eligible student. So there are certain jobs that are only reserved for work study students. So in a sense, it makes the job application process a little bit easier for you because you can only apply if you're a work study student. And it's a very easy application. You just indicate your time and your availability and whether you have experience with this job before or not. That being said, you don't have to get a job through the Princeton website. I also am a tutor for Chinese and SAT writing, and I got it. I just did a Google search and I got the job. So there are also a lot of opportunities and students who need help who go to the middle school or the high school in town.
Awesome. So I have a couple more questions about sort of just the different clubs and organizations on campus. Before I get to those questions, I just want to let the audience know that we have about 10 minutes left of the webinar. So if you want to ask any additional questions, now would be definitely a great time to do that because we are going to wrap up soon. But to ask this question, how many clubs, student organizations would you say the typical Princeton student is involved in? I think I know that Josh, you are involved in a good number.
Yes, well, I'm involved in SIFP, Scholars Institute Fellowship Program. I used to be involved with the LGBT Center. I was also a member of the First Generation Low Income Council and currently a member with Conservation Society. So that would be about 4, but the commitments to them vary from usually a couple hours a week to just an hour a week. So they're more manageable. I don't know if anyone might be on a dance group or a cappella. That usually takes up a little bit more time.
Yeah, I think to that note, I think you can participate in many things for a small amount of time a week or a couple things for a larger amount of time a week. So as I mentioned, I perform with the Princeton University Orchestra, and we rehearse 3 days a week. So this is a significant amount of time that I'm contributing to that group during the week. So that means I have less time for other things. Not no time for other things, but I probably couldn't do 5 equivalent clubs. So I think it depends on the time intensity of what you're doing, but I would say anywhere between 2 to 5 is probably an average amount of extracurriculars to be involved in.
Yeah, and we just got this question in to follow up on clubs. Is there a club day, you know, where you can see all the clubs on campus? You know, do we have big events like that?
Yes, there's an activities fair that happens at the beginning of the year where all the clubs sort of come out into the gym, and they have boards up there, and they sort of like telling you, join our listserv, join our email listserv, join our club, here are the different meetings. And it's sort of an opportunity to see everything that's on campus. I would highly, highly recommend to go and literally sign up for anything that sounds slightly interesting. I started off having no dance experience, and I came in saying, I want to learn how to dance, joined ballroom, which was no experience. Within a year, I feel like I've gotten a lot better off that, was able to sort of leave the team and sort of feel confident about my dance ability. And that was just from something that I tried on a whim.
Yeah. And there's also this question, so I'm not sure how many of you are in theater or if one of you has friends in theater. We can also speak more generally in terms of selectivity. So the question is, can you be involved in the theater scene without taking any theater classes? But also just in general, are clubs like, you know, Triangle, if you can also explain what Triangle Club is, very selective, and like, do they accept freshmen? So just these questions are really getting at like how exclusive are clubs, and can you be in clubs even though you're not studying sort of what that club subject is at Princeton?
Yeah, so I can take this question because I'm in the Triangle Club. Probably 99% of campus organizations are no experience required to audition or try out for them. I also think another really important thing to note is that even though many students might be very talented at art or music or whatever they're doing, that's not necessarily what they're pursuing for academics. I would say actually the vast majority of students who are involved in arts groups outside of class are not actually majoring in that art. I personally think this is something that's really cool because people can be so involved with and so talented at a number of different activities. So as I mentioned, I'm in the orchestra. I think there's maybe less than 5 actual music majors who are in the orchestra. So people are studying everything from engineering to politics to comp lit, but still participating in music at a very high level outside of class. Every organization accepts freshmen. In fact, many will specifically be looking for freshmen to join as they first come to campus. And like I said, a vast majority of groups are no experience required. So while you might have a little bit of a leg up on the competition, there are people every single year who get into a cappella groups, into dance groups, into theater groups without having any previous experience. So for example, I had a friend who was the president of her a cappella group. And when she went to try out, they asked her what voice part she was, and she had no idea what that meant. She'd never sung before in her life, but she ended up getting in and even became the president. So definitely possible to get very involved in campus arts and music with no experience. There's also a few campus groups that are specifically tailored for students without experience. So groups like the Princeton University Band, the Ballroom Club, things like that specifically accept everyone. So there's not even a tryout process involved with them. Specifically about Triangle Club, for those of you who don't know what Triangle Club is, it's super awesome. Would highly recommend looking us up on YouTube. So it's essentially a student theater organization, and there's a team of writers that writes a brand new show for students every year. A lot of the most kind of beloved alumni traditions and songs can be found in the Triangle Club. So it's a really great source of arts and theater on campus. Every year, the Triangle Club accepts freshmen. I would say on average, they accept maybe 5 or 6 students in the fall, as well as in the spring. So there's 2 separate selection processes for that. And yeah, like I said, definitely no experience necessary. If you're involved in auditioning, I would recommend showing up. Even if you don't think you'll actually end up in the group, I would just recommend auditioning for a bunch of different things because it can be fun. I had friends go to dance auditions who had never had any dance experience just because they wanted to work out. So no one's going to laugh at you. No one's going to make fun of you. If you think it's something you'd be interested in, definitely give it a shot because like I said, people get in every year with no experience.
Yeah, awesome. So there's another question I definitely wanted to ask. We have time for about 1 or 2 more questions. So Jonathan, I want to direct this question to you, especially because I know that you are going to be an RCA, and your freshmen might have a question about this as well. How hard was it to make new friends as a first-year student?
I mean, yeah, whenever you go somewhere new, whether you're going to a new workplace or going to a new school, it's going to be a process getting to know people. But I think just by keeping yourself open to the people who you're around and being willing to follow up with people, whether it's by having meals with them or just keeping up with people who are in your classes, it's a really good way to keep those relationships open, and then you'll find maybe a few friends, few people that you really click with. And so for a lot of people, that's their roommates or someone they met just randomly in the dining hall in the early days of their time at Princeton. And so I think it is a process, and it might take a few semesters to feel like, okay, this is like someone I can really, I really think of as my best friend. But I think that's just how relationships are in general, and Princeton is really a great place to find those lifelong friends.
Wow, that's a really great answer. Thank you for that. So we have one more question that we want to ask. So the question is, this is for all of our panelists. We'd definitely like all of you to give an answer to this question. But what's one thing you would have liked to know about Princeton University before coming to campus?
Can I do a two-part?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Okay, so the part that I knew coming in that I've utilized the most is Princeton's travel opportunities. You have a wide variety of options to study abroad during the summer, during the semester. There are various trips that sometimes happen going to international countries, other countries during the small breaks, the week breaks that we have. And that's something I came in knowing I really wanted to do, and I capitalized on it. So that's something I would highly recommend for everyone to look into. But something I wish I had known coming in is that even though my professors are like Nobel laureates or Pulitzer Prize winners or all sorts of, nervous things that like complete accolades, like these people really, really understand their field, and they're some of the most specialized people in the world. Yet the reason why they're teaching here is because they want to teach you. They want to teach you. They're interested in being a professor. And so I wish I had really, really internalized that going to office hours to speak with the professor one-on-one, asking questions in lecture, sending an email out to them. I wish I had really known that my freshman year that the professors really genuinely do care about the students.
I want to hear from all of you. If you one thing you would have liked to know about Princeton before coming.
So for me, I didn't know Princeton's schedule is very different from other schools. We have a longer fall break, and our Christmas break is shorter than other schools' Christmas break. And then we have another break, it's called intersession. So just for international students, I think in a sense, it's a little bit tricky when you're planning your holidays and your travel plans, because the breaks are broken down into these different chunks. That being said, you can always stay on campus, and I did that for the past 2 years for the intersession break. And there are classes offered, free classes offered, and I took a photography class my junior year. And the past intersession, I was on campus writing my thesis. So we don't need to talk about that anymore.
I guess one thing I wish I would have known is that it's okay to not have it all figured out. I feel like especially when you're deciding what school you want to go to, there's very much this culture of everyone trying to seem really smart and really accomplished and really talented. And it's true to an extent. Everyone here is really smart and talented and accomplished, and that's why you got in. But I wish I would have known that it's okay not to have it all figured out. It's totally okay not to know what major you want, what you want to do after graduation. I'm a senior and I still don't have that figured out. So definitely not having, I guess, your life entirely together is completely okay. And I think that, especially as I saw people posting in the accepted students groups on Facebook, I really felt like a lot of self-consciousness about my own abilities, but you got accepted to Princeton for a reason, and it's okay if you're going to hit a few bumps along the road anyway.
I think for me, it was, well, coming into college, I said, I was thinking about being an engineer, and I had a very pretty solid plan figured out for what I was going to do every year. And I thought like everyone just went to college and got their degree and then found a job after, or went to grad school or something like that. But it's really up to each individual student on how they want to spend their time, and so it turns out like, I mean, I've completely switched my major, and now I spend like a lot more time in activities outside of class, and then like doing the work that I thought I was going to be doing. And I've just, I think one thing that is really great about Princeton is it forces you to think about your priorities, because you realize that you don't have time to do everything. And so then you have to think about what's really important to you and what you want to spend your undergraduate years, but also like what you want to spend your life doing. And you won't be forced to choose everywhere, but I think once you do, you'll be much more aware, and also much more sensitive to the ways you invest your time and energy.
Right, awesome. These are all great answers. Thank you so much. I would like to thank my panelists for helping us with this webinar. I also want to thank all the attendees for coming out today. For those attendees that were here yesterday as well, thank you for that as well. I just want to let you guys all know that we're going to have this panel posted online in our admitted student portal. We're also going to have yesterday's panel available to all as well. I'm also going to share with you right now the contact information of all of our panelists here. If you want to send them an email, if you have any additional questions, definitely feel free to ask them a question via email, send them an email. And thank you very much for coming. So let me go ahead and share that with you. Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you again for coming.